I wanted to say just a few words before I turn it over to Luis. So we do have an incredible museum collection here at the Rhode Island Historical Society. And as in addition to that, we are an accredited museum. What does that mean? There are over 35,000 museums in the United States, and only 5% of them are accredited by the American Alliance of Museums, and we are one. So it's kind of a nice point of pride. It also means that we do things by the book, literally, according to AAM rules. And you'll hear a little bit more of this later. But what that does is it holds us to a standard. It holds us to a high standard, the highest in the profession. And what we're going to talk about today is how we loan materials out to other institutions. And this is really a core part of stewardship and collaboration with other institutions, of sharing our collections in a safe way and a compelling way in a lot of ways, by sharing with other institutions that are doing work that overlaps or that can borrow from us. So so a lot of this effort is all part of our mission. And so I will hand it over to Luis to talk specifically about things that we have loaned recently, and when we're going to loan, and then we'll open it to questions at the end. Okay. All right. So without further ado, Luis, please begin.
Thank you, Rick, very much. Well, first of all, it's a real pleasure to be in here and speaking in behalf of the Historical Society, and in particular, our role within the collections department. It's a very challenging area. At this moment, it's becoming quite visible, and we're very excited to be exactly in that position. Rick made an excellent point, and it's about the status of our museum and our Rhode Island, Historical Society organization, that we are accredited by the American Alliance of Museums. So this means probably the highest standard for museums and libraries and archives in the country. With that said, abiding to the specific procedures that need to be followed up, connect us in, and when I say us, is the Historical Society, with other museums in the nation and also internationally. There is a much higher organization that oversees international certified museums, which is the ICOM. And by being accredited at the AAM, we also have access to the ICOM. I am personally a member of the ICOM, and for many years now, and it's very important to know that the museum is at that level. With that said, I think for this presentation, we did a preparation of a slide presentation that pretty much summarizes what we've been doing for the last 10 years. Just to keep the story short, the Historical Society has been around for 200 years, and it's been lending and borrowing objects for a very early time. But we can speak for the last probably 10 years, I would say 2016, that are still current, out and being utilized by other organizations, sister organizations in the cultural field. With this said, it's also very important to highlight that loans required quite a lot of organization in order to get it going. That organization means, of course, the communication between the two organizations, the one that is requesting the loan and us facilitating the loan. in that case, pretty much our department functions in a very, very schematic way. Usually the request come through my supervisor, Rick Ring. Sometimes comes directly through me, especially through the website. And very few times it comes from our research center. Researchers that somehow contact our archives and say, oh, by the way, we would like to see that object that we're thinking about to borrow. So there are different three possible ways that these requests come to us. Also part of the preparation, besides the paperwork and all of that, and I'm going to spare a lot of that explanation because it's really boring, but we keep very good track of what we lend and also the few things that we have borrowed in the past. This presentation is about lending, not borrowing, so it feels like a bank. But we are going to concentrate on the lending and the borrowing. It's every day even more reduced for us. We don't have room, etc., for borrowing objects, only in special occasions when we need something special for an exhibition. So on the lending field, we have a very clear policy that the Historical Society only lends objects to cultural organizations, not individuals, private collectors and entities of that nature. But specifically, we are here to provide access for educational purposes. So that connects us much directly with organizations such as the Smithsonian Institution and etc. Just to mention that we pretty much lend to museums, libraries, and archives in that capacity, in an educational capacity. So these loans have 99.9% a nature of being requested for exhibition. Those exhibitions in the different organizations can be quite short, some others can be quite long. And we have a few examples here of that kind of duration and the different environments where the loans end up going. So it's a real traveling adventure that our objects embark when we let them go. There are also a very important component that is the preparation of boxes and crates and containers for those objects to travel safely. There are in the market courier companies that do that work, but we do that in-house. Or that's our preference, let's say, so that we have much more control on providing the best nesting container for an object. And we have to just stop by for a second and think about what we are lending is almost national treasures. We're lending objects that are entirely unique, that if they break or they get lost, we just lost the only one. So we're talking about that kind of treasure. So that's a connection between the traveling and the treasure in the title of the presentation, is that the responsibility that we have is huge. And then we have to guarantee that, okay, it comes back to us. So there's all that cycle in between, right? So with that said, I would say next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so here we have a interesting case. This is a painting. It's all specified on the slide, so I'm just gonna read briefly. The dates that I am providing in these slides is the duration of the loan, not the date of the exhibition. So for example, in this case, the Nantucket Indian princess, beautiful portrait made by Hermine Daisel back in 1851. The painting was requested especially by the Nantucket Historical Association to be a part of their current exhibition on local connected artists in the Nantucket Island. The painting was requested with some anticipation because it required conservation. And one of the most interesting things, besides letting this painting go and being appreciated by the public, is the fact that also the borrowing institution offered us to finance or cover the cost of the conservation. The painting was in some delicate state, and they did an incredible job within 6 months of conservation work, to the point that right now is on display at location in Nantucket, and the painting looks exactly as the photograph that is here. So it was entirely recovered using incredible technique, like peeling off the previous painting and remounting it with all the different difficulties that implies, and then the cleaning and the recovery of the colors. It's fantastic. It's one of those that I'm just crossing my fingers that comes back soon so I can see it. But the painting, as I said, is in excellent conditions at this point. And it'll be out on loan until the date specified up there, the next January 2025, so next year. The next one, please. Thank you. This is a very interesting painting. By the way, today is the 292nd birthday of George Washington. It happened to be on the 22nd of February, 1732. This portrait was, as specified on the slide, a copy made in China, using as a model the Athenaeum portrait of George Washington by Gilbert Stuart, which is highlighted in much smaller scale right underneath. That's an unfinished painting, and it's exactly the same one that Gilbert Stuart's daughter used for creating a lot of the copies that are in circulation these days. So this copy here in particular was made in Canton during the Cantonese Chinese trade from Rhode Island. And it was part of a group, a very large group of objects that the Rhode Island Historical Society acquired in 1962 from Mr. Carrington's state, when that state was on sale. This painting came through that group of items, more than 300 items that ended up in our collection. And over the years, it's been demonstrating being very important, just because of the connection with the painter, who happened to be a master painter back in Canton. And they were, at that time in the 1700s and early 1800s, they were trying to emulate, of course, Westerner techniques and artists as well. So it was like a learning process on both ways. the Cantonese folks were learning all these Renaissance techniques and Baroque and everything from us. And we were learning from them how to painting behind glass and creating different type of art of what we call Chinese influence. So it was an excellent exchange. This is one of those items that comes from that period. The museum, our museum, owns about 9 portraits made by Chinese artists during that period. Most of them were made for a purpose of recognition. So to show the Mandarin, for example, who the president of the United States was. And so here's the guy. Who the new consul of Canton from the US will be. And there was a portrait of Captain Snow that we have in our collection and so forth. They were also used on ships as part of the identification in order to provide free trade for the ship with the different merchants in Asia and around that area. This portrait here was just until last week on display down in Newport. It was borrowed by the Preservation Society of Newport County. It was part of a very interesting exhibition that they entitled Celestial City, Newport and China. And the exhibition closed its doors last week. So we're receiving the painting back. It should be here next Monday is when I got all the the return schedule. Next slide, please. Thank you. Oops, just there. Okay. This one here is a fantastic opportunity for a mega loan. We were contacted by the National Museum of the United States Army about in 2022. So it all started early in 2022. And they were interested in starting a group of items that will be showcased at their local big celebration of the 25th anniversary of the American Revolution. This is an exhibit that we all will need to go to Washington, actually to Virginia, in Fort Belvoir, and take a look of it. The National Museum will be hosting this exhibit for about 2 years, and they borrowed early from us with the intention of provide, first of all, having objects in order to create the mounts and the specific areas in the cases and everything is quite important. This museum moved in a very, very professional way. And also, they offered a conservation treatment for those items that would require, in particular, one of them that it's the number 7 in this list here, the tourniquet. It's just partial conservation, actually. But what they borrowed from us were connecting with what I said at the beginning. This is historical treasures that have no other similar around. The list of objects is just down below on the very lower bottom of the slide. But just reading very briefly, the number 1 is a British artillery cap. The one that we own and that our historical society owns and that we lent to the museum in Washington is a pre-Revolutionary War. So there was just a slight few years before the Revolutionary War started. That was the kind of issue that the artillery went around. Pretty much that shape of hat was a common denominator for grenadiers, people behind the cannons and so forth were wearing that kind of hat in the British Army and also in the Revolutionary Army. Number two is a casting mold for rifle and musket. It would be mostly musket at that time. Balls made of lead, of course. So you can see the two halves and the little sprout where the lead will percolate and fill the content of the mold. Number three, it's a very interesting object. It's a lock of hair from a soldier, a patriot soldier who decided to cut that tie from the old British fashion. And we have the hair, and now it's in Washington, right? It's in Virginia for the show. Number four is a beautiful sword. I'm only showing in the picture because of constraints of space, but the handle and a little portion of the upper side of the sword is a congressional award, as indicated here, for Colonel Jeremiah Olney. It's made in France. Amazing work of blacksmithing and goldsmithing as well. Number four is the sword. Number five and number six are whistles used by, of course, in the battlefield. The only way that you could convey messages was by drumming or making these kind of pitching sounds or whatever you were trying to do. And then the bugles came in a little further. These are fantastic pieces, these two whistles, boxy, and then each one of them have scales right on top of the handle so that the player could convey the message in a specific scale, musical scale, sound scale, not musical, but sound scale. Then number seven is the tourniquet, of incredible piece of work. Just picture number seven and number eight. Number eight is the a pair of splints for broken legs, or specifically these have the shape of legs, and it's all handmade. That's the fascinating thing. Then number nine is a personal belonging, is the purse I've messed up with the name right there.
Nathaniel Green.
Nathaniel Green. That is correct. Yes. I'm sorry. Apologies for not filling that blank. It's on my list though, but and then number 10 is a telescope that is fantastic. It has a affidavit of the ladies who give faith of having been on a top of a hill observing the battle that is described in that affidavit. So it's like these people saying, with these items, we watch, the armies down there killing each other. So this is an exhibition I think I'm going personally for sure. And the loan spans from October last year, when we delivered the items to them, through September 27, when they are expected to be back at that time, after the celebration of the 2050 independence celebration. And then next slide, please. Oh, here, that's another interesting loan that we just went through. Last December, we provided them the University of the Dominion, Old Dominion University in Virginia, um, particularly in Norfolk. They have the Barry Art Museum, that is a very active university-linked museum. And the exhibition that they have currently about these dolls have to do with Martha J. Chase, lady from Pawtucket, who began working with dolls for girls and just say traditional dolls. And over the time, her dolls became a little bit more evolved, and they ended up being the very early prototypes for nursing practices and healthcare practices. So practically, they were the predecessors of the mannequins that we use today for CPR practices and etc. That type of human representation. They were made of fabric, different techniques applied. Martha J. Chase stayed involved until the last day of her life in the manufacturing of these dolls for training nurses and so forth. And the exhibition down in Virginia is currently ongoing until August this year, is related to the educational content of these dolls. In our collection, we have several dolls from Martha Chase. She was in Pawtucket. The production of these dolls took place from Pawtucket, and then, of course, the operation evolved a little larger. But it's interesting that we have these dolls from the very, very early period that Mrs. Chase was producing dolls, which is the 1880s around. The doll on the right, the one with the red beret, comes from that particular period, from the very, very early period. They were, at that time, they had certain kind of articulation in their arms and legs. Next slide, please. And then these are loans that somehow left our premises some time ago. They have been renewed. They are still ongoing. And what I did here was just to, in order to provide a little bit more background, we have objects that have gone through renovation because they are still important at the location where they are. And in particular, I'm going to just read quickly here, 2016, at the Smithsonian, the National Museum of African American History and Culture. They asked us 2 years ago to renovate, please, 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 until 2026. So that loan is quite interesting. Initially, there were 2 items from the collection. The Wolf papers on Mary Ann Plantation. These are from our archives. They were only lent or let go on that loan for 6 months because it's documents, it's paper. It cannot be exposed to a longer time to exhibition, lighting, etc. So they were recalled, and in lieu of those objects, excellent facsimiles were provided. So the facsimiles of those documents are the ones that are right now on display, while the Chinese porcelain teapot, which is a beauty, is still there. So that teapot will come back to us next year on 2020. I'm sorry, 2 years from now, 2026. The other one in about the same capacity is the loan that was renovated and ending next year. that it's at the also part of the Smithsonian, the National Museum of the American History. At the exhibition Many Voices, One Nation, we have two items that actually were originally from Woonsocket, the Catholic school up there. There's a schoolgirl uniform that comprise three parts of the uniform: the bow tie, the jumper, and something else I can't remember. And then the school catechism that was used in that particular school. This part of our collection, and it will be coming back next year. Then we have, it's been for a while, Senator Nelson Aldrich briefcase, the diplomatic briefcase that is on display at the U.S. Capitol Visitor Center in Washington, D.C. That's coming in 2 years from now. We have like a little funnel coming in, like objects are going to start coming back. Then we have at the Newport Historical Society, we have a scale model of the Wanton Lyman Hazard house, and interestingly is exhibited in that historical house down in Newport. We talked about returning on the 2025, and they still want us to consider another 2 years after that. So that's a kind of situation that you may end up going. And then just two upcoming loans that are just in the process of getting approved. We were asked 5 of our historic samplers from the Gilbert Stuart Birthplace and Museum, and also being considered a portable desk that was actually donated to us from the ladies of the DAR. And that is being requested for loan by the Newport Historical Society. So these are two that, like we speak, so are being considered to go. I believe with this, I guess we touch the last slide, and I will be open to comments, questions.
Thank you, Luis. Does anybody on the call have any questions for us? Thank you for your clapping.
Thank you.
So like Luis says, it is a it can be a long process from request to provision. All loans have to be approved by the board collections committee, and every loaning place has to fill out a fairly extensive facilities report. We have to know their security, their environmental conditions, et cetera. So we take it very seriously, but we also really like it when it happens, because when another institution requests what you have, it implicitly legitimates you're holding something important. You know, they want it for some interpretation or some show that they're doing, and you know, and it kind of reinforces the importance of the work that we're doing in preserving these materials. So I don't see any questions in the chat or anywhere else. So I think that's, you know, that's our program for today.
Thank you everyone for joining us, and I hope to see you all at our next 2 virtual programs. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.